Everyone, welcome to a special BTB Roundtable. I'm Steve Netter, and with me are Teresa and Todd. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Dead Ringer before we bring in a special guest. Dead Ringer is a book publishing in December 2nd by Chris Hauty, and it centers around the JFK assassination, which many people are very fascinated with and has no shortage of theories. So let's talk about it a little bit. So, Teresa, what did you think about Dead Ringer by Chris Hauty?
This book checked a lot of boxes for me. So you've got the conspiracy theory part, you've got the historical documents and the true facts and things like people, places, things that even if you never like research it at all, just through going through school, you have the basic part. But then you have like the deeper, the documents, the conspiracy theories, the what is it, the enigma, cryptology stuff. You've got that. Um, and then of course you've got the big left turn at the end. Like this book just checked a lot of boxes for me, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I'll kind of echo. But on the flip side of this, for me, one of Howdy's strongest characteristics of a writer is characters. Like his character development and ability to suck you into their story quickly and make them meaningful to you is one of the best in the game. So I again love these characters. I was always intrigued how they were going to respond to each other in the situation. So the character development and driving was as much for me as the conspiracy theory portion of it. So I think, as usual, Howdy delivers on all aspects as he always does.
Yeah, Todd, you're right. It's strong on plot, strong on character
Mm.
development. It's very engaging. It's got a big twist, which Chris Howdy's well known for. It kind of has it all centered around an event that we've all heard about, read about, watched on movies and documentaries and stuff. So it really does sort of check all boxes, as Teresa said. And it blurs the lines between fact and fiction. You'd be hard pressed to figure out in there, some stuff that maybe is made up from, the mind of Chris Hauty, but, really sounds real. And so it sort of it reads almost like a true story, even though some of it has been fictionalized. So if you're into that type of book, which I think a lot of people in the thriller universe are, and it's suspenseful as hell as well. Dead Ringer by Chris Hauty, coming out December 2nd, is should be on your TBR for sure. And with that, what do you guys say we bring in our special guest, huh?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Hey everyone, welcome to a special roundtable with Best Thrower Books. Today, I've got Todd and Teresa, and we have a special guest, Chris Hauty, author of Dead Ringer. And we are going to talk to Chris about that book a little bit and see where it goes. We might go off topic a little bit, but let's at least start with talk about this fantastic book that's been published this year. And Chris, maybe let's start with a question about how you came up with the idea to write a book about one of the most talked about conspiracies in the history of the world, the JFK assassination. So, what drew you to revisit this moment, and how do you feel about sort of putting your own spin on it?
Oh, I'm going to blame Bob Dylan. It was 2020, start of the pandemic, and Murder Most Foul came out, the 18-minute long epic song that Bob Dylan put out, and it reignited a long-standing interest in the event. I was alive. That may come as a surprise to you or not, but I was in first grade when I was informed that the president had been shot in Dallas. And so, the fascination and interest has ebbed and flowed over the years. Of course, like the rest of the world, JFK, or excuse me, Oliver Stone's movie JFK kind of reignited the conspiracy theory and the in everyone's interest in looking behind the Warren Commission report. And thinking about just the feelings, the big feels I got off of Dylan's song, put that stuff back in my head. And so when it was time to come up with an idea, I wanted to do a standalone after the Haley Chill series, and And I wanted a big mystery. And I don't think you can get any bigger than JFK's assassination in terms of unsolved mysteries that I could have some fun with.
Got it. Great. Todd, you got a question for Chris?
Um, yeah, so I, being the data nerds that a couple of us are, mine is more of a research question. So as you were looking into all of this, was there a piece of information that you were like, no, I can't even include that, like reality is way crazier than, or sorry, yeah, reality is crazier than fiction. Is there some piece of your research where you had a moment where you were just like, that's too weird. No one's going to believe this.
Well, you know, the conspiracies run the gamut, and one of the goals that I set for myself when I started the book, thinking about the book, was to come up with a resolution, an answer to that eternal question of who do you think was behind JFK's assassination? Um, I wanted to come up with something that I hadn't heard before. Um, I had never heard that aliens did it, and I certainly didn't want to go down that road. So that was one avenue that I chose not to pursue, that the extraterrestrials were behind JFK's murder. Uh, but there was any number of incidents and unsolved mysteries that I uncovered in various books um, that provided the clues that I took and created my own resolution. So I didn't put that very clearly. The idea is that, you know, there are certain long-standing, well-known mysteries about the assassination. One of them is for instance, is Oswald's activities in Mexico City. A lot is known about what Oswald was doing in Mexico City about a month, I think, before November 22nd, 1963. But there are about, I think, a day and a half, about 36 hours of unexplained, unknown uh, qualities of what Oswald was doing, where he was in Mexico City. And so I chose to take that real historical incident and known facts and provide answers to that mystery, all in service of the resolution that I ended up with. So, you know, there are there are lots of head smacking, you know, for a hand to the forehead kind of like moments when my research uncovered those things, and so there wasn't a lot that I considered uh, out of bounds in coming up with the story. I think that's what's so fun about it.
Yeah.
We have a lot of hand to forehead moments on BTB. So
Yeah, I bet.
look at you, Steve.
Yeah, Chris, following up on that, right? How do you decide what of those theories that you research to include versus what to maybe not include? Aliens, aside.
Well, you know, there's a ridiculous bounty of material in this story, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to jump in, was that there's no shortage of of facts and controversies and conspiracies and icons and characters. So I didn't have to invent so much in terms of the backstory and the conspiracy. Um, and you know, it was really just trying to pick the ones that fit my narrative the best. And like I said, that would, if I took them and changed them around a little bit, then I could come up with the resolution that I did. It was really just kind of like cherry picking. It wasn't hard to like scrounge around looking for those mysteries when it comes to this event. The nonfiction book that probably served the best source material for those possible unexplained mysteries was JFK and the Unspeakable, written by James Douglas. And he's a fairly reputable, he's not kind of like one of those off the wall conspiracy theorists. I found his arguments intriguing. And so it was really a matter of using some of the highlights of his book and changing things around to write my own.
Got it. Teresa, I know you've got a question you're dying to get an answer to, so turn it over to you.
So many questions. Um, so my biggest question is that underneath every chapter heading, there is a coded message. And I'm not going to lie how much time I spent trying to decode that in different ways. So, and I didn't read the acknowledgments before I started trying to decode it because I thought maybe I needed to know as I was going. And so I know you really probably can't tell me what it says, but can you tell us what memo or what information or what document you used to code to put in the top of that?
Yeah, there are some online websites that will mimic some of the historic ciphers, and so they're very fascinating. And so I took a historic document that I'm keeping to myself for the time being, and I input it into the cipher machine, the online cipher machine, and came up with those string of seemingly random characters and put them under the chapter titles. The idea for it came fairly late in the process of the book. The manuscript was already done, and the book designer had done his initial design of the book, which had the chapter titles with just a series of faint X's underneath the chapter titles, just as a graphic idea. And I really don't know where I came up with the idea to make use of that, to mimic a lot of the ciphers and codes that are existing in the book itself.
Did you get to go to or did you have a chance to go to the Cryptology Museum and all of that stuff that's in Washington?
No, I didn't go. I'm in Los Angeles. I didn't get over there. I did communicate with them. And I also communicated with a couple, uh, um, what would you call them? There's a museum in Europe that has one of the machines that figures in the book. And what I had really hoped to do was be able to actually take all the messages that are in the book and code them with one of those machines, with one of the actual machines from 1963. There's only 2 or 3 of the machines still in existence, and they were willing to help and have me send them the messages. Unfortunately, the machine was being refurbished during the whole year and a half that I was writing the book. So I had to take a different same era machine and use that to encode both the messages that are in the book, coded messages, and the little chapter underscores as well.
Yeah, so just so you all know, I know your readers too that have seen the messages as they go. I literally tried to and make a pattern out of those messages to match up with what was underneath the chapters. I didn't break it. So.
Yeah, I think it would be quite a challenge to do that. It would be quite a challenge. I think you would actually need one of the machines. You would need to know which machine I chose to use to encode the messages, and then each of those machines have the whole idea behind it is you create a key, and so you input the key into the machine, and that enables you to actually encrypt and decrypt each message that you send.
Well, Teresa, A plus for effort, I guess.
Yeah,
But
indeed.
yeah. Chris, it occurs to me you love a good conspiracy. I don't know I'll go as far as say you're a conspiracy nut, but I think about your first Haley Cho book with Deep State, and there's a lot of conspiracies and cabals and stuff, and then this book with the JFK assassination and conspiracies around that. What do you find more interesting to write about? One that's completely fictional that you create, or one that is sort of tied around a historical event that people know about?
I think it's the mix I like better. I like the blend of fact with fiction and historical incident because it's less of a lift for the reader. If you're touching on a lot of these known um, events or characters, and then you change things around a little bit, I think you're just engaging the reader in a faster, easier method. Um, the whole idea behind it is not, I'm not trying to provide, the answers to this mystery, which will never be solved. I'm not trying to blow the lid off of any conspiracy. Um, it's more to really get the reader to, first and foremost, be entertained and engaged, but also to think about something that they thought they knew everything about, and just to put a new spin on it. I like to think of uh, you know, uh, what Tarantino did with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and the Manson murders. I mean, it's the same idea. It's like, uh, it's a time, a historical time, place, and characters that we all know and recognize, and then you put your own characters in there to mess around with all those uh, supposed facts.
Yeah, I'll follow. But when I started reading this, I'm a bit of a fanboy for Steve Barry and Dan Brown, and I was
Mhm.
getting same vibes. I was like, if you guys like kind of the historical fiction thriller genre, like this book is right in your wheelhouse. So I loved it. So it sucked me in instantly for those exact reasons.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a history buff. I mean, I read much more nonfiction than I do fiction.
Mhm.
So it's for me, it's the best of both worlds. I get to invent
Mhm.
stuff and be creative, but I'm also exploring history that I do on my own every day.
Mhm.
So, considering you're a history buff, is there somebody from that time period that you would love to interview? Who would that be and why?
Oh gosh, all of them. Um, God, that's a good question, Steve. Who would be best? I mean, right out of the gate, my response would be Kennedy, uh, because he was, from everything that I've read and watched, he just was such an intriguing guy, and I bet fun to hang out with. I would have to like kind of split the difference and say, uh, equally interesting and intriguing in a twisted way is Oswald. I mean, Oswald um, had a really varied childhood and young adulthood that I don't think people are aware of. And he really bounced around, and he was military. He was stationed in Japan, and it was a real series of mishaps and debacle in terms of his military career, and then his time in the Soviet Union before returning to the States, and then of course trying to dig into uh, any number of mysteries that may or may not tie him to the CIA. So between those two guys, I kind of, I mean, maybe it's a bogus answer, but to go right to the top, um, but those are the key players, and those are the guys I would most want to uh, sit down with and hear their stories.
If you can get them in the same room together, I'd be really interested in seeing
Yeah,
that.
Yes.
wouldn't it? Drive across country, with I'm driving, and they take turns sitting in the front in the shotgun seat. No pun. Um, so yeah,
It's
those
awesome.
guys.
Teresa, Todd, any other questions?
I always have questions for Chris, but on this one, so I always feel a book is as only good as its villain, right? Protagonists are great, but the villains are really the one to suck me in. How did you determine who was going to be kind of the evil cabal and driver in this book? Was it something you found in your research? Was it something you wanted to include in a book at some point? I was just curious about what kind of drew you to this type of motivator.
Well, it really kind of grew out of the story and where I was going with it in terms of, I can't really go into details
Yeah,
without spoilers, but
yeah,
he really I needed, the pursuer. I wanted
mhm,
this is a road movie or a road movie. It's a road trip,
mhm,
um, and I needed someone always on their tail, and his character grew out of both his background and the nature of the overall conspiracy, the overall
mhm,
bad
yeah,
guys. Um, his his demeanor, I think, was inspired a little bit out of No Country for Old Men and that
okay,
villain
yeah,
and bad guy. I think that represents one of the all-time great bad
mhm,
guys, just in terms of sheer uh, dread and terror. And that's kind of where it came from.
yeah, that's awesome. Yep, yeah, I definitely got those vibes. So
Yeah.
mission accomplished. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Teresa, anything else from you?
Yep. So one of the things that I've learned through this reading journey is that there are readers who try and debunk or find the raw, like something that was incorrect inside of a book. Um, and I am a lean all the way in. I'll just read it. I'm like, I'm here for it. So, but I know the amount of research and things that you did for this book. Do you like, so it's kind of a two-part question. How did you decide to put like certain documents in? Like I made a mark on National Security Action Memorandum 263. Like, how did you decide which specific documents to put in? And then do you like secretly love knowing that it's real? So when we look at it, we don't get that aha moment on you?
Yeah, I think those came out, specifically the James Douglas book, if that's the one that I'm thinking of. Um, so, yeah, I always try to put, inject the real world into these books. And uh, even, like when I did the Haley Chill series, if I was wherever I was setting it, um, any scene, I would like, Google Earth and Street View is like one of God's gifts to thriller writers everywhere. I mean, I love putting an actual, if it's a bodega or a convenience store on the corner of, wherever in Washington, D.C. I'm going to find out as much as I can. So if you're familiar, if the reader is familiar with that location, it can be, I think, pretty exciting to recognize it in a work of fiction. And the same goes for those, those documents. If someone's going to bother to, uh, you know, see something like that, a detail in a book, a mention of a document, I want them to Google that document and find that, the way I've portrayed it is accurate. I just think that's part of the fun of engaging your reader and getting them to, like I said, think and dig themselves, dig dig it for them to investigate the topic as well.
So I'll ask maybe one more question. you're known for having big twists in your books, and this one's no exception. Um, how much do you enjoy sort of setting it up so that at some point you blow our minds and you know it's coming, but we don't, and we have that reaction? How satisfying is that?
It's satisfying. It really is. I mean, I didn't set out to be the kind of big twist guy, but it happened with I got so much feedback on the twists in Deep State, and each subsequent Haley Chill book had a pretty sizable twist at the end, as well as throughout the stories. So you, I think when you're doing a book like this, where you're tackling the JFK assassination conspiracy, if you don't have a twist at the end, the reader is going to be sorely disappointed, I think. So this one, since I started out, I think with Haley Chill, I also started out with the twist. But in this case, because I had so much more historical fact an incident to work with, I was really able to leave a trail that hopefully, even more so than with Deep State, once the reader gets to the end, they can go back and look at some of those moments throughout the book and kind of go like, of course, why didn't I see this? And I think that there's a fairly gigantic clue in this book that I was really worried about putting in, and because I thought it would give away the ending. And I haven't encountered a single person yet who has said that they had figured out the ending. Everyone's been surprised by it. And no one has expressed being ripped off by it either, because if you just kind of plop, do like a total, left turn at the end of a book with a kind of, what we used to call in screenwriting lame pipe. You want to, like lay it out so that at the end, the reader will see that many of the clues were there. And the fun is that they didn't figure it out, because you've got to, you're kind of like, it's like a magician's trick. You're like doing something with your right hand while your left hand is secretly doing something else. And that's really what I always tried to do, is like when I was laying in those clues and hints to the ending, probably there's a lot of other things going on at the same time to distract you from that big clue.
Yeah, I certainly didn't see it coming, so mission accomplished.
Great.
Awesome.
I,
Go
I've
ahead,
got
Tom.
one more. I got one more question I have to have answered. It is stuck with me for just every day I think about it since I've read the book. What's with the baking element? Did that come from something in real life? Because I was terrified initially where that came from. I was just like,
Well,
okay, what's going on? Who in your life is baking things? And is it you?
guilty as charged.
Okay, yes.
While I was writing the book, the first draft, I was getting into doing baking sourdough bread, and it really is just a counter program character. I'm not the first guy to do it. What is the Schwarzenegger movie where he's got the teeny little dog? I mean, that's just the idea. It's like the big tough guy, give him an attribute that is points in the opposite direction
Mhm.
of everything else about him. It just was another way to show that this guy, Joe Mingus, who comes off as pretty gruff and taciturn and isolated, he's actually a very caring guy with a very strict moral code, and a good one, a good moral compass. And one of the aspects to totally bore your audience, one of the aspects of baking sourdough bread is tending to this sourdough starter as if it's almost like a little pet. and you've got to really take care of it every few days, feed it and tend to it. And so I thought that was an excellent way to give this guy additional dimension that would be sympathetic to the reader.
I hope you got your starter someplace better.
I do. It's in my fridge right now.
Okay.
Chris, I'll get you out of here with one last question because I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this. I know our audience is gonna want to know. You mentioned Haley Cho multiple times. Are we ever going to see Haley Cho in print or on a screen somewhere in the future?
Uh, Hope springs eternal. We're currently going out with it. It had been optioned by a television studio early on, and so we're trying to do that. And it's a process, as you well know. I'm sure every author that you've had on here would attest to that. Um, in terms of print, I feel like the four books didn't close the cover on that story, but it certainly completed an aspect of her character. I think at the end of The Devil I leave her in a good place to continue the good works that she uh, fell into with the first book. And I think she's in much better shape. So I'd love to revisit it. It's just, it's going to take some time to generate interest in Hollywood, or for me to stop having ideas for other books. I'm currently working on another standalone that is very much not a Haley Chill book. Um, you know, I'm I can't say it won't happen, nor can I say that it will happen anytime soon.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, thank you, Chris. We really appreciate you joining us for this special BTB roundtable. Dead Ringer comes out in December, if I have that right.
December
Uh,
2nd.
December
Yep.
2nd. So everyone, please get your pre-orders in and pick it up on December 2nd from your favorite bookstore. So again, Chris, thank you so much. For Teresa and Todd, I'm Steve with Best Throw Books. Everyone, thanks for watching.